explanation of having internet problems. It collapsed again. So,
House of Cards here.
House of Cards. So I was talking about Troy the movie, and the point I was trying to make was the Greek tragedies classically give you heroes that are great,
Right.
but they have flaws. And the movie was trying to give you these sort of gladiator, larger than life heroes that you have. It's like Maximus and a bunch of others. But they needed to emphasize the fact that Achilles is not the guy you want to follow and believe in as a hero. Agamemnon isn't. Even when you want to believe in Hector,
Mm-hmm.
Hector, I mean, spoiler from a thousands of years old story. Hector freaking gets killed, and he's the really only decent guy in the movie. And Priam, his father, goes and begs Achilles to give him his body back just so he can bury him. And Achilles finally relents, and he's like, man, I'm a douche. But you're not meant to believe in Achilles or believe in Hector. It's like Troy's being attacked, and you're like, oh, Paris has stolen Helen, and like he's super into her.
Right.
But they make it into sort of this love story, so you're meant to be sympathetic for Troy. But Troy gets freaking destroyed.
Oh yeah,
Like
flattened.
it goes
There's
down.
nothing left of it.
And the theme
The
of the
Greeks.
story, which I don't think they pulled off, but they seem to try. And I think if they would have executed the story better in some aspects, I think it wasn't actually that badly written, thinking of it. But it should have come across as a big message about the flaws of mankind, and almost a message about like pride and greed, and you know what I mean? Like those should have been the messages of the story, but when you see a movie, you want it packaged in this very cleanly heroic sort of, oh, the heroes of Troy.
Blockbuster.
And,
Yeah.
but it's like Achilles isn't a hero. He's a douche. He's a bloodthirsty piece of garbage. He's a monster on the battlefield, and that's part of the reason why Agamemnon foundered and he couldn't take Troy, is because Achilles refused to fight. Because he's like, nah, screw you if you're going to take all the credit. I'm the one that took the beaches.
Right. See, one of the things that I've always liked about Troy and stuff, and was not, well, I shouldn't say always, but it was pointed out to me later, in the fact that the Trojan War started because Paris kidnapped Helena of Greece. And, wait, was she Athens? I forget. Anyway, she was a Grecian. She was kidnapped by Paris, took her back to Troy, and then obviously the Grecians felt that they had to go and invade Troy and get her back.
They did it to invade, but in the movie, Agamemnon clearly states, I didn't, and they even say it in Troy. It's like Agamemnon didn't show up with thousands of troops just to get the girl back.
Well,
like
it was a good excuse.
You don't invade with that many people just to get her back.
It was a good excuse, but the thing is that the war lasted 10 years.
Yeah.
If they kidnapped her when she was 20, she was 30 by the time that she was done. She could have had 10-year-old kids by the time that they finally got around to rescuing her from the Trojans. You know what I mean?
I know there were sieges in Europe during the War of the Roses that lasted many years.
Oh yeah.
I think there was one where the British assailed a French fort, castle that they just couldn't get in. Let's see, Siege of Candia in Crete was easily one of the longest sieges in recorded history, lasting 21 years.
Yikes.
In 1644, the Knights Hospitaller attacked an Ottoman convoy. The Turks responded by sending 60,000 men to assault Candia, which was controlled by the Knights Alliance in Venice. Yeah, this was that famous story of the Templars refusing to give up the castle that they had. And I think they all ended up dying to the man.
Yeah, it was the last man standing kind of thing. Or to the last man, anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it was always interesting to me that they're like, this war, they always say that it was based because they were trying to get Helen of Troy or Helen back from the Trojans. The war lasted 10 years. She could have totally married the dude and had kids by the time they got around to getting her out of the castle. Anyway, or out of Troy. Anyway, move on.
My point was, it was lost potential, and I could see they approached a decent movie, but they didn't execute the message as well as they should have. I finally did max out all of the achievements for Shadow of Mordor today.
Awesome.
Finally got it done, and it feels
you
very
finally
relieving.
got that one that was eluding you.
That took forever. That was a hard, notorious. No joking, Jason. They give you 40 minutes to accomplish all of the mission and objectives and stuff to get the achievement. I finished it with 4 seconds left.
Holy cow, that's tight.
No joke, because I was looking at it and it was like 10 seconds, and I'm looking at the clock and I'm sprinting, and all I had left to do is I had to kill this one guy.
Uh-huh.
But it's this big fight, and he's a captain, and the captains have fights, and I'm fighting, and I notice that there is a Graug thing. There are these big giant, like bigger than trolls, they're giant armor things. So I summoned him, jumped on him, sprinted across the field, grabbed like 2 guys instead of the captain, because you can grab him and eat him, and it insta-kills. Finally got the captain on the 3rd try, and I'm sitting there the whole time like, no, grab the right guy. Finally get the captain, picked him up, ate his head. Then I had to jump off of the back of him and quickly execute all the guys with me, because there was still one captain that I had controlled that was helping with the fight, and he had to die for me to ding the achievement, and I dinged it with 4 seconds left on the clock. It was the most clutch mission accomplishment. And the stupid part was, there was once where I actually almost finished everything and got it done with like 5 minutes left. I was like just screaming through it, and I didn't realize that, because I had to get a bunch more points before I could finish it.
Right.
I almost had enough points, and I didn't realize if I killed the last captain, it ended it, and I couldn't get.
I couldn't get the points.
Yeah, I ended up finishing the mission with 5 minutes or 6 minutes left to spare, with like 40 points that I didn't get, and I would have gotten it. And and you have to kill that's like 3-4 orcs. That's like if I'd have known that, but I got to the end and then I just executed the guy I was controlling.
Right.
And then it ended it. And then I was like, no. So I finally finished the achievement. I'm super psyched about it. It was a lot of fun. I'm not a trophy hound. I don't care really that much. But the trophies actually give me sort of personal tasks. And it expands on the game.
There's something to do to keep your interest in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It expands on the game, and I like to finish them. I don't use it as a penis measuring contest where it's like, look at how big my gamer score is or whatever.
I have 5,000 more gamer score points than you do.
Yeah, it's like, who freaking cares? But it has been fun for me trying to go for the achievements and trophies and stuff, because it gives me more of the game to go into. So I finally did finish that, and I moved out of it. I played some No Man's Sky. Just a bit. I killed a few ships, and it takes a bit to get back into. And my controller, there's a stupid thing with my controller. Anyway, and then I fought John Cena a few times and lost again. First time, haven't played it in a week. Felt rusty, still figuring out the controls. Closest I ever got to beating John Cena.
Evidently, you just have to do it when you're more using intuition rather than
skill and experience.
Twitch skill.
The closest I've ever been, but yeah, that's pretty much been it. Having fun.
Yeah. So I've still been playing through Saints Row 4. I've unlocked all of the different superpowers. I don't know if I've unlocked all of the upgrades to the superpowers, because I unlocked the collectible finder, and I went through and I collected everything. So I got all the power-up tokens so that you could buy the power-ups. I destroyed all the Zinyak statues. I did all that stuff.
Well, here's the question: are there useless skills?
Not so far.
Because you could
I
tell how well they developed the game, where all of the abilities you get are actually somewhat useful and you will use them, as opposed to there's 2 I like and 10 I never use.
Well, the thing is that it does end up being like a couple that I end up liking a lot. I like the freeze blast because it does an area effect, and I can neutralize a lot of opponents at the same time. But the stomp is fun because it sends things flying. I can throw things with the telekinesis. I just got this one called Buff, and what it does is when you power it up, if you run past someone, it'll start them on fire, but it will also empower your bullets. So there's these mini bosses that you have to fight that have shields around them, and usually you have to like hit them with a blast or throw something at them with telekinesis or get close enough to do a stomp. This one you can actually empower your bullets. It'll blow through their shield, and then it'll take them out. When their shield's down, you just use your gun and you can take them out. So I like it. Saints Row 4 is a lot of fun. I've rescued all the characters now. Got Johnny Gat back. He disappears at the beginning of Saints Row the Third, and supposedly he dies. Actually, he was abducted by these aliens years before they invaded the planet. And you finally get your friend Johnny Gat back. But other than that, and Chance can go to sleep at this point, I usually read a lot of more than one book at the same time. Like I'll read an electronic book and I'll read a paper physical book. So I found this one called The Elves and the Otter Skin. I know it sounds really a funny title.
Like a crappy book.
I can't say that it's very well written, and I'm planning to actually get rid of it once I finish reading it. But it's all based on Norse mythology.
Oh, wow! So now I'm interested.
So the elves are actually Alfar instead of like elves in the other sense. The dwarves they have an uneasy peace between them. They're right now going into Jotengard, I think is what they call it, to recover a sword that's been buried with a king. But the thing is that there's this necromancer, and he's decided that what he's going to do is he's going to take over everything. And so his plan is he tricked the elves, these 5 elves, into killing the son of the dwarf chieftain. The dwarf's son liked to shapeshift into the form of an otter, and they killed the otter without knowing it was the dwarf chieftain's son. Now they have to produce a weregild, and if you don't know what that is, it's actually you pay the person damages, basically. It's like your son, how much was he worth to you? We'll pay you that much in gold, and you will basically leave us alone. Well, the necromancer enchanted this otter skin. The terms of the Dwarf Lord's weregild was cover this otter hide with gold, but the necromancer enchanted it so that every time a piece of gold is put on it, the otter skin gets bigger, and so they can never actually cover it. So he's going to provoke a war between the elves and the dwarves. They destroy each other, and then he comes in and takes over everything. So they got a human from the mortal realm, and his job is to recover this sword, kill a dragon, use the dragon's horde somehow to cover the otter skin, and stave off the war. So there's all these things. They ran into these 3 witches that turned one of the elves into a horse so that they could hag ride him, as it's called, hag ridden. That's where it comes from. A hag used to come in, change you into a horse, and then ride you to death.
Huh.
And
I can't say that I've heard of the term hag ridden before, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's from old witch lore. So yeah, I mean, to me, there's a lot of interesting things in it, but I'm not really liking the book. So
Oh.
So I'm going to finish it up because
Well,
I kind of do that. It's interesting
usually
enough to
their
finish.
their stories, especially mythological stories, are like stories meant to be shared because they were considered true events, or stories with messages. So sometimes we get overcritical of ancient stories that you know what I mean. I'm
Well,
actually,
this one is
by
not
the
so
way,
much an ancient story, but using ancient
right.
story, ancient mythology. Yeah.
So they're trying to actually write a novel, but doing poorly.
Yeah.
I'm actually still reading that book on the French Revolution, by the way.
I hate it. I actually read cover to cover Les Miserables because I did
haven't
it
read
for
Les
an
Miserables,
English.
but I'm super fascinated by the French Revolution. So I'm still like reading
You might
the book.
actually like it
I
because
might. The story sounds fantastic, and there's a lot of historical parts. Sometimes, though, history books are written dryly and they're hard to get through.
well, Victor Hugo, when he wrote Les Miserables, the book is 1,000 pages, over 1,000 pages, just the book, but the story itself of Jean Valjean and all his stuff, that covers maybe a half to a third of the book. The rest is French history.
Yeah.
And the parts that I just got bogged down with, and it just took me a while to get through, were the French history parts.
Well, I'm going after the French history parts right now. I'm reading the book's called Citizens. It's got another like subtitle to it, but I don't remember.
Well, let's get on to the video games that are coming out. There aren't very many coming out this week, which isn't really surprising, but
we don't have to make up news to make.
Yeah.
Did
you download the video game list from Dropbox? Because I think I put it on there.
Yes, I did, and
Okay,
what an
good.
awkward time to start asking that. But anyway, I'm going to start the first.
Okay, so
It's
the
like
first
now that
one,
we're into the podcast.
Yeah,
did you get everything together, by the way?
I should have asked you that before, but it just didn't occur to me. You said you were anyway. So the first one is called Air Conflicts Double Pack. Now these ones came out actually earlier this year. It was, or not earlier necessarily this year. Earlier.
Nope.
Anyway, one of them is Air Conflicts Vietnam, and the other one is Pacific Fleet, something like that.
Keep talking. I'm going to get this. I'm having trouble.
The thing is that when I was actually going around trying to find out what the games were about, there's no Air Conflicts Pacific Carriers.
There we go. I just had to refresh it.
Yeah. So the gameplay looks fantastic, and so does the...
I really like the old sim days where you have space battles and... Or, you know what I mean? Like, I loved Rogue Squadron, and I would super be into a World War II game. My biggest problem is they usually have robust multiplayer, and I suck at it.
Yeah.
Like, I can play the single player at my own pace, but the multiplayer, I just don't have the patience to get owned by guys for, hours.
Right. The thing is that this one has campaigns, and it follows the conflict in the Pacific, and it also in the Vietnam War. And what I gather is that you have you go back and forth between the sides. So you can start out with one faction and then move on to another faction.
It looks like you're flying a MiG in the Vietnam one. And the characteristic sort of snub-nosed MiG.
Right. And then there's the Japanese Zeros and what I've heard and been able to discover from these games is that they were really well received initially because they look really good. And I guess that the control scheme is really intuitive, really easy to learn, but it's repetitive. And so there's not a lot of longevity to the games.
It looks really cool to the point where I'm like, if I can... I'll write it down on the list of games I'd like to play, and if I can get it when it comes out for cheap or something, then I will.
So yeah, other than what I've heard, I mean, you fly missions in both the Pacific Theater and then in Vietnam, different wars. One's World War II, one's Vietnam War, but
looks
at
like
the same
flying
time,
over like Cambodia and stuff. And
yeah,
some of these.
yeah. it looks like they did a really good job. Okay, moving on to the next one. The next one is called Criminal Girls 2 Party Favors.
What?
Yeah. This is another Japanese visual novel kind of thing.
Uh-huh. They come
And
out with one a week, man.
seriously.
These booby 14-year-olds.
Yeah, and the thing is that this one is this one is questionable in my mind. I mean, there's some that are legit. There are some that are legit, but this one is all about girls and yeah.
There's a game that came out not too long ago where you have this, you get hit by like a very Japanese game, like that stupid creature that hits you with an arrow and makes people fall in love.
Eros?
No,
Cupid?
Cupid.
Eros is Cupid.
And essentially,
anyway.
Don't confuse it. Essentially, you run around a place, but like she hits you and makes you too powerful. So all of the girls are in love with you, and you basically like I don't know, it's really skeezy. Like they all fall in love with you, and then they like do poses, and it came out recently, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at this game," and I'm like, "No, I'm not into these 14-year-old girls." But
yeah, and that's kind of what this is. The story is that
girls party favors.
Yeah, you have these girls. They commit. They're delinquents, not criminals, but they died before they could commit their crimes. Anyway, that sounds weird. And so they were delinquents, not criminals yet, and they were sent to Hellspire. And you are there to reform them. And
as the sexy jailer.
Evidently, there's 7 girls, and there's only 6 that are delinquents. So it's like one of them is actually a criminal. Like, what? This has got to be.
How does the forces of hell make that mistake?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a PS Vita.
So this is almost. We were talking last week about the how the cute 'em ups, where they have the girls that are, instead of shoot 'em ups, they're cute 'em ups, because your character is a girl rather than a ship or a tank or whatever it happens to be.
Right.
This is in my mind, this is the same kind of thing. You have these attractively drawn cartoon character, women, and they're putting you in questionable circumstances, in my mind. So anyway, that's the one that's coming out. Anyway, you can see it in the trailer.
September 20th.
Yep, September 20th. A lot of these are coming out tomorrow, September 20th. Most of them actually are. So the next one is called Dear Esther Landmark Edition.
Oh, because I was like, I swear this has been out already.
Dear Esther has been out already.
I think I own it because of a PlayStation Plus thing or something.
But this one's coming out for Xbox One and PS4 on the 20th. So it's already, you can play it on Steam and things, but if you want to play it on PS4 or Xbox One, it's coming out tomorrow. The thing is this one is an artsy game. Definitely an indie artsy game. It got a ton of awards for it.
Mystery, adventure, kind of like a Myst sort of thing with a little horror element to it.
Yeah, they call it a ghost story that's told using first-person gaming technology. So it focuses on exploration, uncovering the mysteries of the island, who you are,
really
why you're there.
They're proud of their environments, I have to tell you, because these porn shots of them floating over the trees and looking at the grass move, and
mm-hmm.
It definitely does help this sort of game because it makes it more atmospheric.
Yes, and that's what this one is really all about. It's all about the atmosphere and the story. So you're not going to find a lot of other gaming conventions on this. It's first person, yes, but it's all about exploration and uncovering the mystery. So you are on this island, and it could all be some sort of fever dream. So you have to figure out what's going on here as you go along. The game does look, like you said, the atmospheric nature of the game, they did a really good job on it.
It looks good.
So, yeah, it does look very attractive.
This is a hype trailer, so they could just
Yeah.
be up on all the like high fidelity stuff. And
Yep. Okay, to move on, Destiny is coming out with another expansion pack. Plus, they're coming
they've
out
been
with
hyping it.
Yeah, they're coming out with Destiny the Collection. So if you already have Destiny, you can get Rise of Iron, which is the name of the.
It looks like the whole point of Destiny was, look at this, like high tech future world where you're doing stuff, and this is like, oh, now look at these guys running around with wolves and carrying an axe, and you're like, well, did they go back in time? No, it's just we're in the high tech world, but we want to swing axes and have wolves.
Yeah. Well, the premise behind, or the story behind the Rise of Iron is there was a group of guardians called the Lords of Iron, and they came across an enemy. They contained it in what they call the Plague Lands, and they created a way that it was trapped. Now, this other group called the Fallen, that you run into quite a bit, especially at lower levels, they have somehow managed to breach this Plague Land that should have been
to unleash what was imprisoned or whatever.
And now the last of the Lords of Iron, Lord Saladin, he was in charge of the Iron Banner events that used to happen periodically through Destiny. Still may be happening periodically. I don't know. But now he's directing you into the Plague Lands to destroy this new faction and to keep them from doing whatever it is that they're trying to do there. And then Destiny, the Collection, if you've thought about getting into Destiny and you've just been putting it off, whatever, go after Destiny, the Collection. It has all the games. It has the original game plus all the DLC plus the new game, or the new the new DLC, the Rise of Iron. However, Rise of Iron will not be available for Xbox 360 or PS3, as the previous DLCs have been. This is going to be exclusive. Yeah, I'm annoyed by this.
I played Destiny. I beat it. I was bored with it. I have no motivation to get the DLC unless it's really cheap.
Yeah, so both of those are coming out tomorrow. So if you're in on Destiny, and
I mean, it looks
I have
pretty,
to say some of the stuff looks pretty good.
Right. I mean, the game looks pretty, and if you're really into Destiny, then this is definitely up your alley. So I mean, bonus for Destiny fans.
Yep.
Definitely. Just not my cup of tea. I played Destiny, and I just didn't think it was that great. And maybe it's just overhyped, like No Man's Sky was for a lot of people.
Well, I think that a lot of people had a hard time with... I mean, Destiny comes out, and either people love it or they hate it. And for a long time, you're like, I will never play Destiny because it's so overhyped. Then you got it really cheap, and you played it, and you're like,
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was overhyped. The reason I would have never played Destiny will still remain a secret. It's a MMO shooter, competitive, and none of these things are up my alley.
Right. And the funny thing is that if you talk to Bungie will always deny that it is an MMO.
Well, that's pretty much what it was, and we played through just the main quests, me and Lindsay, and when we were done, I was like, that's it? Like, it feels like half a game.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was worth $60.
Well, that's the thing. I think with Destiny, they were hoping to reel you in with the half a game and get you addicted to the multiplayer.
Yeah, but if you're into the multiplayer and stuff, that's one thing, but I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the biggest selling points of Destiny, because I think it wanted to do everything at once. It's like with Halo, you have a robust single player game, and then you have really
Right.
good multiplayer. Well, with Destiny, it's like it's trying to do the single player, co-op, and the multiplayer like arena fights and stuff.
Right.
And then it's trying to do this sort of like MMO interaction, buying items, RPG thing. And it does all of them decently, but not all of them well. It's
Right.
like the game is not enough to attract me to a single player game, because that's really the only reason why I'd want to play it. And the only reason why I bought it wasn't because I even really wanted to play it anyways, because Lindsay owned it and I wanted to play something with her. That's
Right.
the only reason why I relented. We played it together, beat it, and after it was done, I was like, I have no interest anymore. I have no reason to go back. But I mean, I'm done now.
Right.
I suppose if we got the DLC, I'd play the DLC and then be done. I have no motivation to go back and play it again, or get any more gear, or do anything more interesting
Well, see,
in the game.
that's what always annoyed me the most about the gear. It's like if I wanted to get good gear, I had to play the multiplayer stuff, and I just don't like doing that.
And it's bad now where you have overly leveled, high geared people in there who are
Right.
just dominating it and killing everybody in the room, and it's just not fun. Like me and Lizzie
Right.
played, she's like, we should play the multiplayer. We got in and played like 2-3 rounds, and we just got owned over and over and over again. And I'm at the point where I'm like, I have no interest in playing the multiplayer.
Right. See, that to me, that tells me there's a failure in the multiplayer system, where it's like it's not matching you against people who are your own level.
Well,
It's
that was
matching you against people that are over leveled.
Well, that was always the problem with multiplayer in general. Is
Right.
if you're not there at day one, playing with everybody, playing a lot, getting the system, understanding the maps, doing all those things. If you're coming into it 2-3 years later, where the game's been out for a while, and you're trying to penetrate a group that's already been like veterans for a
Mhm.
long time, then they make it not fun, because they stomp on the new people, and the new people don't get anything out of it.
Right.
So every time there's a multiplayer game where I'm partially like, oh, I'd like to try it out because it looks fun, I always get stomped because I'm always coming into it 2 years down the road. And I
Right.
really don't care about the competitive aspect. If I could get fun out of it, that's one thing. But it's like they talk about Overwatch, and Overwatch is this big, hyped multiplayer game that everybody plays. The game's been out for a while. If I tried to get into it now, I would be destroyed every
yeah.
map. I wouldn't have any fun. And somehow people are just, Overwatch is just great. You have to play it all the time. It's like, no.
See,
the
that's
time
what was-
to play it was when it came out. Now is not the time to get into Overwatch.
That was what was interesting about Guns of Icarus, the multiplayer with that. I mean, you and I and Lindsay played together, and we were eliminating people that were several levels higher than us, because it's not built that way. It's built so that even if they're a level 50 and you're a level 10, you can still play competitively against them and win. Which is, I think, the good way to do it, obviously. But that's how Guns of Icarus is built. It's not built like Destiny. Destiny needs, if you go in as a level 10, you need to be against other level 10s.
Well, I mean, I'm not the greatest captain, but I would say I'm pretty decent.
Yeah.
But if you have a decent captain, a decent to better engineer, because you really need an engineer that keep it together, and if you have some decent gunners, you could even have mediocre gunners. If you have a team that
If your
works,
engineer keeps things from
if you
burning
have
up.
a team that works well together and they know what they're doing, and you have other ships that aren't super incompetent, you can take out like high level people. It's
Oh,
not-
yeah.
They're not driving ships with high level gear on them. They're driving
Right.
normal ships. They're just super high level guys because they've been playing a lot.
They've been playing it for a while.
You can flatten out their ships. When Lindsay started playing captain, just to try it out, and people would dump on her. Eventually, she got to the point where she would be like, "Okay, I'm going to come in, and then I'm just going to ram the guy." And she could take people out sometimes. I mean, it's not an overly complex. It's a team game. It's not it's not so reliant on the gear you have or the individual excessive skills.
Right.
Because you can be a really good shot and they can make a difference. But other than that, I mean, I'm already as good as most of the engineers, because as long as you understand how to run the circuit around the ship and hit all the repair stuff, you'll be fine.
Right. So to move on, we have Jazzpunk. This one's been out for a while too, but it's coming out for PS4 this week.
Looks like a PS2 game.
Um, could be, I don't know. It says it's an adventure comedy game and poorly made word processor. So it's set in an alternate reality Cold War world, and you have corporate espionage, cybercrime, and evidently sentient martinis.
This game looks goofy.
And it's based on spoof comedy films like Naked Gun, Airplane, Hot Shots, and stuff. So you have weird gadgets, you have weird places that you're going into, open world exploration, and they have instead of and they've tried to eliminate these physics puzzles that people just have such a hard time with, and they're trying to get away from, as they call it, kills per minute gore fest. And so they have another trailer. I looked through the trailers, and the one I ended up going with more showed the artwork and some of the gameplay that was behind it. And so there's another one.
Definitely sinks or swims on its charm and look.
And I think, you know, since they're releasing for PS4, you can already get Jazzpunk on Steam. So if you don't want it on Steam, you want to play it on your PS4. It seems to me that they've gotten a pretty good following, at least on the PC, to give them enough money and impetus to port it over to
Looked
the
like
PS4.
One of the guys was wearing a Virtual Boy.
Yeah. So it looks interesting, like I said, and it looks like it could be a lot of fun. But whether or not it is, who knows? But it's got character, it's got jokes, and one of the things it was like, one of the things I was looking at, they were like, oh yeah, you know, an adventure comedy with 5 jokes and things like that. It was pretty funny. And they have a what is it, Johnny Mnemonic style teaser trailer.
Okay.
That was on Adult Swim, evidently. And the guy comes in and he's doing all these things, and then he puts on this the helmet and the glove and the mouthpiece, and it's like, hurt me, like the Johnny Mnemonic thing, and he has the plug in the back of his head. It's pretty funny. I don't know if it's worth anything, but it looks like it could be quite entertaining. So
You put too much data in my brain.
yeah, which doesn't make any sense if you know anything about computers.
It doesn't make any sense. He's
No.
a walking USB drive.
Yep. So, Jazzpunk. Moving on, we have Killer Instinct Definitive Edition that's coming out for Xbox One. This one actually has something to recommend it in the price. It's the Definitive Edition, and it's not going on sale for like $59.99. It's going on sale for $39.99.
Yeah, well, the original version was pretty cheap, and then they would come out with what they call seasons,
Right.
which would come out with extra characters and gear and all those things. And the Definitive Edition, it seems like it's giving you all the characters in one big...
Yeah, you get 26 characters, including the remastered cast. You have original fighters, Hisako and Arya, special guest Arbiter from Halo, Rash from Battletoads,
Yeah.
General Rom from Gears of War. There's 20 stages, plus you get Killer Instinct Classic 1 and 2. And then... So yeah, I really like that they're like, this is the full game. We're giving you everything that we put out for Killer Instinct, plus we're dropping the price. It's not $50. It's not $60. It's $40.
Well, I basically have the base game, none of the expansion stuff. It came.
Right.
I got it with one of the Xbox Live things or something like that. I played it some. It's pretty. It looks like a crazy fun time. I just don't understand the mechanics, and I'm not a fighting game guy, so it's hard for me to penetrate it much. I'll play it sometimes just for goofy fun, but I don't understand the mechanics well enough to really get much out of the game, but they look fun.
Yeah.
and the characters look cool and stuff. And it's one of those just sit down and play with a friend of yours sort of games. I'm not a, like I've said, not a competitive guy, so it's not like this is going to be my online multiplayer thing.
Right. So yeah, and I do like the Killer Instinct characters that they try to make them.
Jago and the werewolf or whatever. What, Saberwolf or whatever he's called?
Yeah, something like that. That was always the thing about Killer Instinct that I really liked, was that not only is this a fighting game, but they weren't making everybody in the game a cookie cutter copy of everybody else. They're trying to make them unique. Yeah, a fire breathing one, evidently.
One of them looks like a character from The Ring. She's just the chick from The Ring, is what she is essentially.
So yeah, if you're interested in Killer Instinct, go ahead and check out that one. To go on, we have NBA 2K17.
Do they have a big, robust story in this one again?
Possibly.
Is it directed once again by Spike Lee?
No, I don't think this one is directed by Spike Lee.
A massive story mode.
Yeah, on their website, the NBA 2K franchise continues to stake its claim as the most authentic sports video game with NBA 2K17. Of course it is. It's more realistic than the last one.
Yeah, as long as they keep improving, they're always going to be the guy on top.
Yeah. But one of the things that I thought was kind of funny is, so I'm watching that trailer that I sent you, and I'm looking at the character skins and stuff, and for some reason you have Magic Johnson like playing with Michael Jordan, and so this is like
It's
Team
the
USA
Dream Team.
from, yeah. But one of them, it was like I don't remember what Robinson, I think it was. Anyway, he looked totally goofy, like way too big.
Yeah, he played for the Spurs, if I recall.
Yeah. But I don't know, some of the faces and stuff of the and there he is. Some of the faces and stuff on that they did for the characters. Yeah, they I can tell who they are because I remember the Dream Team being such a big deal when I was in like high school.
They were the stars. Like,
oh yeah,
not only that, but like the names on that team were just. There's very few players today who can stand up to much of the people that were on that team.
Yeah. The thing is that they may the players now, in all fairness, may be better than the players at the time. I don't think they are.
I don't think they are.
I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that, in all fairness, they could be. But the thing is that none of them have what's the word? None of them have that star power. That
the name recognition?
The name recognition and star power that they did during the Dream Team era. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it looks like it's pretty much, game as usual with NBA 2K17. So
gotta get
that
Larry
one's coming
Bird
out.
in there.
Xbox One, PS4, 360, PS3, and PC. So they got you covered.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we have Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters Daybreak Special Gigs.
Gosh, these Japanese names.
I know. This is another visual novel. This one seems a bit better than the previous visual novel. Less skin, more story. Still with the, idealized kind of look to everybody. So it's an enhanced version of Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters. So if you got the game, it's pretty much the same as that one, but it's got a few new bells and whistles, expanded story, new scenario, improved battle system. But you are, let's see. I thought it said what your name was.
This game?
No, it wasn't this game, but I can totally see why you're saying that.
They all look the same now.
Exactly.
The art style is pretty neat.
Yeah. The thing is you start out as a student at Kurenai Academy in Shinjuku. You've transferred into the school. On the first day, you're walking around the grounds, and you get drawn into this supernatural world where you then become a ghost hunter. And so you have to team up with other ghost hunters to take down the ghosts and figure out what's going on. And like I said, it's pretty much the same as Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters, but now you've got an expanded story, you've got a new scenario, and they've improved the battle system. So it pretty much the same characters as before, same story, but they've made some improvements on it. So if you were interested in that one, you might want to get this version instead of the previous version. Now, the Wheels of Aurelia, and this one I don't exactly know how to take. It bills itself as a
looks like
a narrative road trip game set in the 70s in Italy. It says it's half a racing game, half interactive fiction. It's the story of Lella, a restless woman driving on the roads of the western coast of Italy, the famous Via Aurelia. So isometric. It says it plays like one of the isometric arcade racers, but you chat with your passenger while you're driving.
So you're basically trying to drive the car while there's this narrative going on, it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an odd concept for a game.
Exactly.
This is definitely
an
artsy game. I don't know what to think.
That's why I was like
obsessed with Italian culture.
I have no idea how to exactly take this, because it's like you're trying to drive this car, not drive it off the road, but at the same time you've only got a limited amount of time that you can talk to your passenger. Because if you notice the dialogue as it pops up on the screen, you'll see a little bar that slowly drain. So obviously you've got to choose your dialogue options and then not drive off the road.
It seems like a manic, because you want to be engrossed in the story, but this doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to select stuff and drive, and it seems like a goofy concept for a game, but whatever.
Right.
Good luck to that.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Agenda. And this one took me a while to find any information on, because when you look for Agenda, this isn't what comes up.
Clearly, you look for something to buy, or political, or whatever.
Yeah. And this one seems to be right up your alley. It's a strategic simulation. You are
war games.
Yeah, war games. You are an independent agency, and your goal is worldwide domination. And so you then make alliances, you assassinate, you bribe, you commit fraud, you do whatever it takes.
Are you like an NGO or something more like the CIA?
It just says a worldwide independent agency.
So like the Illuminati or something.
Yeah, something like that. And so you have executive operations. There's 5 aspects of power, so probably money and political influence.
Seems like a political, strategic version of maybe Plague Incorporated or something.
And actually, when I was looking it up, somebody had that exact comment. They're like, "This looks like Plague Incorporated."
I showed it to Lindsay, and she got it and played it so much that she beat all the little bits, and she was really into Plague Incorporated. Got to kill everybody on the planet.
But this one comes out on PC, Mac, and Linux on the 21st. So if you look at some of the things, you've got economy, politics, military, science, and I'm not sure what the other one was, but those are like your aspects of power.
It looks cool. It's hard to say. I'd have to sit down and play it, because these games come down to how addicting and fun the gameplay is.
Right. And how smooth they are, and how how well you can interact and
whether
whatnot.
or not there's a steep learning curve.
Yeah. The last one is definitely an interesting game for both of us. It's coming out on the 23rd. It's Warhammer 40K Eternal Crusade.
If I recall, it's been in pre-release for a while.
Yes, it's been in pre-release for a while, and they're finally getting it to come out. It's now on early access on Steam Early Access, and it looks really good. Just looking at the visuals and stuff from the game, it looks very good.
I've seen a lot of gameplay of it. Visually, it looks pretty cool. Arch Warhammer did this big thing on it, talking about the game and what he liked and didn't like. He said it had some problems from what he explained and from what I could see. The Eldar seem excessively weak because they're a faction in the game compared to the Marines in the game. It had a few other problems. It has potential. I don't know.
And it could be that that's just a balance issue that they've fixed at this point.
That's not necessarily it. Anyway, I'm talking about the alpha version. I don't know if they've actually improved it by this point.
You'd hope so.
It does definitely look cool. They don't seem to show much of the Eldar, but they were in the game from what I recall.
Well, it says that there's the ability to choose allegiance and background. You have the Space Marines, Chaos Marines, Eldar, and Orcs.
Yeah.
It's a third-person squad-based tactical shooter with tanks in a persistent war. It has PvP 60+. Holy cow. And then PvE 5 versus AI.
Oh yeah, you can get tanks. You have big battles and stuff. It seems interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot. There's it says earn thousands of weapons, armor options, and accessories for multiple sub-factions drawn from 28 years of Warhammer 40K lore to perfect your craft, or perfect a lore to craft your perfect warrior. So
I choose a chapter, make your guy look cool. I mean, the game looks really cool. I'd have to get my hands on it to see how it plays. Inevitably, when it comes to Warhammer stuff, I always keep an eye on it until it eventually gets on sale, and I pick it up anyway.
Right.
So eventually, I will probably end up owning this game. Whether it's now or 2-3 years from now is another story.
It sounds like some of it's kind of in the, kind of like the Dawn of War 2 stuff, where you've got the squad-based actions that you can go through.
Well, I would almost say it's more...
But it's more first...
Space Marine.
Yeah.
Just big battles and what have you.
Okay, so I said Space Marines, Chaos Marines, Orcs, and Eldar. They actually have the Tyranids, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So those are the factions.
It looks like they have 3 prices for the games. If you spend $40, you get 40,000 points. $80, you get the game, and 92,000 points. And it's like the Warrior Sergeant Captain version. The Captain version gives you whole loads of extra points or whatever their in-game currency is, as well as the game, and it's like $120. I suppose it smacks of pay to win.
Yeah.
But who am I to say?
I don't know. The thing is that unfortunately there's a lot of money to be made in the pay to win category. Unfortunately,
they wouldn't do it if it wasn't financially viable.
Yeah.
I would, however, say that though Warhammer is popular, and 40K more so than fantasy.
Yeah.
If the gameplay isn't solid, Warhammer will not be enough to bring people out.
Yep.
It needs to be able to be capable of like competing in the era with Halo and Call of Duty. And if it can do that, it becomes a fun game that everybody really wants to get into, then the Warhammer aspect sort of reinforces that. But I don't think the IP in and of itself is going to guarantee this a success.
No.
That's what's so strange about the Warhammer IP. It means that you will get a hardcore group of fans purchasing games with the Warhammer name on them, but not a guarantee that there's going to be any success behind it.
Well, the thing, as you said, there's a hardcore group of fans that are really into the Warhammer games, and they try to do a good job with the Warhammer games because, their fans expect a certain amount of quality and everything from the games. But what's going to happen is you're going to get the people that are like, yeah, I got this game and it sucked. And it's going to go out to everybody in the community, and you're going to lose sales that way. So, I don't know. It looks like a good game. It looks like it could be really quite a good game
absolutely. I'm trying to judge it based upon the stuff I've seen, not having actually had my hands on a controller.
Yeah. But those are the games that are coming out this week. Warhammer 40K, Eternal Crusade on the 23rd for PC. The rest of them coming out earlier for various systems and stuff. So you'll just have to check and figure out which one you liked. If you actually play one of these games and you're like, oh, holy cow, that was a great game, let us know. Or if the opposite happened, you got this game because it seemed interesting and it totally just fell apart, let us know. We'll mention it. Or if you have some more information about these games, let us know. Or if you're a game developer and you want us to talk about your game, we will talk about your game without having played it. We will just give our impressions, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Anything you want to leave with as we get out of here?
Nope. Just trying to keep the podcast together. We had 2 crashes, but after that, it seemed fine.
After that,
hopefully things settle down and the podcast doesn't seem so janky and inconsistent.
Yep. Anyway, that's it for the podcast tonight. Hope you enjoyed yourself as we did, and we'll see you next time we do the podcast.
Later.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's 2 most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter @DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.